Good day, folks. So today we're going to work on the way wipers, get them cleaned up and get them on there. The new felts that I got from Monarch. We'll get that done. And I also want to briefly go over what almost was a somewhat of a heart-stopping moment that I ran into. I was doing a little bit of testing and ran into something that I thought was going to be a disaster. So let me show you what I found and what the actual outcome was. So again, thanks for watching, and let's get started. Okay, so the issue that I was really concerned about, as you know, I spent a fair amount of time discussing and going over the oiling system that this machine has, and you know how thoughtful and interesting it was. So as you remember, the oil pump is down here right behind the sight glass, and when you run the carriage back and forth, it operates that pump and it pumps the oil, and that oil comes out right here and right here on these on the cross slide ways, and also right here, which this gets a little either cork acid or an O-ring, and that's where the cross slide hand wheel goes, which is right over here, which is the next cleanup process that I'm going to do. So it goes right there, and if you look here, you see the little oil port right there. So before I got more into buttoning this machine up, what I wanted to do was run the carriage back and forth with the hand crank and just see how we're doing with that oil transfer. Well, back and forth about an hour, nothing was happening. But let me show you this right here. Sorry. Now you can see the oils coming out. So that was not happening. And I was in a little bit of a panic that I was going to have to take the saddle back off and figure out what in the world's going on. So thankfully, it just needed to fill the system up and get the oil going. So I'm going to take a tapered punch, and this one is too big. Let me go find a smaller one. Right here. So we're going to take this tapered punch and we're going to put it in here and block that off. This is the path of least resistance, so as this pump is running, it will not pump to these ports right here, which actually have a smaller orifice. So now what I want to do is run this carriage back and forth and see if we're getting oil coming up through here. So it might take a few runs back and forth to get the pressure going there. So let's see what's happening. Any day. I'll just keep doing this, and you'll see eventually we'll get some oil bubbling up there. And we're not leaking right here, because I got that closed off. You know, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it isn't, you know, imperative that there's a ton of oil that comes up here. You know, I'm sure they figured that all out. Now you can start to see the oil coming, right? There you go. Maybe if I get down a little bit lower, you can see it. Okay, so you see that sort of Z groove starting to fill with oil. And you see that this one is also filling with oil. So on machines that I've worked on in the past that are, you know, sort of not higher end machines that do not have a pressurized oiling system, you know, that were older machines and had been worked relatively hard, these ways generally were in really rough shape. Even the main carriageways just didn't survive their lifetime very well. And you know, because there you're dependent on individuals to make sure they squirt a little way oil on there and you know, wipe chips off and so forth. On this machine and machines like it, the pressurized oil system, I think, keeps some positive pressure on the ways, keeps debris from getting underneath. You know, of course, they all have way wipers, but I don't think they catch everything. And you know, it's potential situation where they're run dry and then damage happens. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that. That was yeah, heart-stopping moment. Like, oh, don't tell me I've got to take off this stupid saddle and figure out why I'm not getting any oil pressure up there. So okay, let's get on to the way wipers, which you see they're already on here, but I'll show you how I went ahead and did that. So we're going to take a little break from cleaning nasty parts, and we're going to go and put some way wipers on. So I ordered new wipers from Monarch. Probably could have made them myself. See this one right in here. So what I'm doing here is going to put this in, sort of already rubbed it on the ways and stuff to make sure that it actually fits. And this bottom piece is screwed on with a roll pin to locate it. I suppose you could take this off, put that on, and then screw that up from the bottom. I'm not going to do it that way. I'm just going to stick it over the end here and bring it along. Get it like that. And then we're going to screwdriver in there, screw it in. Off camera, I took a tap and went through these holes right here because they I didn't put like set screws or anything and keep the paint out of them, so they had some paint in there. All right. Okay, so it doesn't feel like there's anything binding on there. Cool. All right, let's go do the next one. Okay, so this is at the tailstock end of the carriage. I'm going to do the same thing here, but you can see that I have this housing in the way, so it's going to make this a little bit more difficult to get on, but it still does fit. I think. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So the piece on the bottom here, there's actually a way wiper in there as well. So what it's doing is it's wiping the underside of this way. And if you remember, over here is the adjustment for the bearings that ride on the underside that stop the carriage from lifting. So this way wiper cleans any debris off of the underside of the way so that that bearing doesn't ride on top of metal chips and so forth. So I think it was a pretty good idea. So let's get a couple screws in there. I'm going to reposition this carriage to get away from the my screwdriver's hitting this. Okay. You have to tug on it a little bit to get the screws to line up properly because the felts are pushing this way wiper housing sort of out of alignment. Okay. So we'll give this another go, make sure we're not binding anywhere. Perfect, feels great. Okay, you're gonna get a flat wiper on right here. The same thing. What I did with these things is I ran them in my bee blaster, cleaned them all up first, then just lightly sanded and buffed them out. You do go too crazy. Okay. All right, let's see what we have. Okay, feels good. So what we have on this left to do is there's a flat wiper here, and a flat wiper there. So we'll get these guys cleaned up and we'll get them installed. Hey guys, I found something interesting to point out here. So with these flat way wipers, if you notice, this one here has one little mark on it. This one has 2 marks. This one has 3 marks. I'm guessing the one I already installed probably has 4 marks. I'm thinking, you know, these things are oddly shaped. You know, maybe they were hand fit on the machine at the time. So somewhere in the life of this machine, I would imagine that the wipers have been changed, and in order to keep things, you know, to put things back in the same place that they were removed, the maintenance guys where this machine was used, they must have marked these parts. I went back here and looked to see if I could identify any matching witness marks, but I don't see them. But it doesn't mean that they're not there, but it could be that when I did the you know, the sanding, priming, and all the other work here, that I got rid of those marks. So let's see if these things fit, and you know, if they do, not a big deal, but if they don't, we know why. So I'll get another way wiper here, and we'll see if we can't get these guys on here without a major doing. So here you can see right here, it's the bag. This says tailstock wiper, flat wiper. The tailstock and these are the same. So put that in there. That's how we do it. And let's get this one started. Putting a little downward pressure on them to fill in the gap as much as possible. Make sure that the fells are tight up against the ways. All right, I don't hear any scraping noise, nothing binding, so I think that's a pretty good fit. We'll get to the next two here. Okay. That one has a bit of a gap, so maybe I'll just try and put the other one on here and see if it's a little bit tighter. It feels like it's going to be a little tighter fit. I have to push down a little bit more on this one. But I don't want it so tight it's so the aluminum is scraping on the ways. So it doesn't sound like it, and you see how that gap is much less. I know it's hard for you to see right there, but the gap I'm talking about is between the bottom of the wiper retainer and the ways. So now the last one is this one over here. Let's get that one on. I had thought about soaking the wipers in a little bit of whey oil, but I don't think it's going to take very long for them to soak up the oil once this thing gets running. All right, let's give it a check. Make sure it works okay. Perfect. Doesn't really feel like it's gotten any tighter. It definitely feels smooth and not binding, but yet there's a little bit of resistance there, as you would expect. Okay.